This is the season for farmers markets. Holly Mobby, director of the North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association, says their goal is to connect farmers and consumers.
We want to get the word out to consumers where the farmers markets are at, what's fresh, what's available in the markets, who's open when, and we also want to connect those consumers with the other producers that aren't selling at farmers markets. Say they have on-farm stands or U-pick operations, places where consumers can get direct purchase of locally grown produce.
Mobby also hopes to bridge the gap between large commodity farms and smaller specialty crop producers.
We want to get the word out that specialty crop producers, even though they may be growing on an acre to 10 acres, are businesses and farms, and they have the same concerns and goals as the larger commodity farmers.
For a listing of farmers market events and directories, go to ndfarmersmarkets.com.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Marvin Baker, who's based in the Carpio area. Marvin grows numerous produce crops, including peanuts.
I would compare it just like a tomato, and that's really the magic of growing peanuts is the germination temperature. You got to have a high germination temperature, and once you achieve that, then it's going to behave like any other pea or legume, like a pea or a lentil or a chickpea or something. I mean, it is a legume. I've been growing it to save seed stock mostly and build it. And this year is probably the first year now that we'll have enough to market. And we'll take it to farmers market. You know, we have a CSA, and we'll probably get some to our CSA shareholders.
Baker says peas will be at the market within a week. Garlic will be harvested at the end of July, more throughout the season. The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest is Stephanie Bloomhagen, the owner of Meadowlark Granary.
I take the hard red spring wheat grown on our family's farm. I mill it into whole wheat flour, and then I bake whole grain whole wheat bread. You know, a lot of recipes that are called whole wheat bread are actually white flour and maybe about 50% or less whole wheat flour. When the bran and the germ are still in the flour, the dough can hold more water. You need to maybe adjust the recipe a little bit, reduce the flour a bit, and make sure that you let the dough set for a while to absorb all that water so that you don't end up with a dry loaf. I do a first rise of about an hour, and then I shape the loaves, and then it rises for another half an hour. I've read a lot of other recipes that say whole wheat bread benefits from even longer rises than that.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update is from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Ross Lockhart from the Heart and Soil Farms at Grandin. Ross operates a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture.
Basically, the concept is consumers or members of the community will purchase shares of the vegetable farm at the beginning of the season. So that has benefits for both the consumers and the farmers. Consumers get access to fresh, locally grown produce, and the farmers benefit because they can, access a little bit of capital so they can, get their farm up and running and cover those input costs.
This is a great time for the garden.
Peas, carrots. We'll be digging a few small potatoes this week, I think. Green beans are starting to come on. Summer squash, like the zucchinis. Lettuce has been online for a few weeks now, and those tasty tomatoes are also coming very soon.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest is the Vice President of Farmers Market Buying Club, Rachel Brazil. Rachel, tell us a little bit more about the cooperative.
The Farmers Market Buying Club became a way to kind of pool everyone together, and we do it in a virtual way as far as that the ordering is all done online. So looking at July 27th is our first date this year. We'll start at the end of July and go until mid-October-ish, kind of depending. Some of the products that we are more staples include bison from Steel Family Bison. There is sourdough baked goods from Proverbs 31's farm. We have a couple different producers that have eggs, and so those are kind of our staples, and we're looking at, potentially cucumbers, peas, spinach, those kind of early crops, radishes, and those kind of things to serve as the fresh produce.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Paul Brown, who operates Nourished by Nature. They raise a diverse array of livestock and direct market their product.
Those would include our grass-finished beef and lamb, our pastured pork, our free-range eggs. We also have beehives as well, so we sell raw and unfiltered honey. Everything that we raise is born on our place, and we raise it from start to finish. And we also raise our own grains that we feed our laying hens and our pastured pork as well. So we know exactly what's going into the animal from day one.
That local foods message resonates with the consumer.
You know, they want to reconnect with their farmer and know exactly how their food is raised and where it's coming from. And so once we develop that relationship with our customers, there's a trust factor involved, and they can count on us to raise their food in a responsible manner that's not only good for their health, but also good for the health of the ecosystem.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers. This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Greg Kemple from Maple River Winery in Castleton. This is a busy time with fruits coming in for the different wines made locally.
First things that come in are rhubarb and then cherries and raspberries, strawberries. Now we're starting to get apricots in, and then it looks like the choke cherries are going to get started end of July. They'll start coming in.
The vast majority of that fruit is coming from North Dakota farms.
80% of our fruit comes from about a 60-mile radius of Castleton. When we started, we didn't realize how much fruit was out there, and there's millions upon millions of pounds of fruit. You remember last generation, farmers utilized every square inch of their farmland.
Call Maple River Winery for instructions on the best way to prepare fruits for delivery. The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest is Roger Hunt with Prairie Seed Garlic in McCluskey, North Dakota. Roger, tell us a little bit more about how you got into the garlic business.
Well, we run our garlic kind of in conjunction with the farmers market. Several years ago, I couldn't find any good garlic seed. And so I've been going to farmers markets, and someone had really some nice stuff, and I bought some from him and started out. And right now I sell a lot, on the internet and through local farmers markets. So cooking, more and more people cook with garlic. It's a great spice, and it's pretty versatile. You can use it a lot of stuff. And check me out or check the local vendors that have it. It's fun just to get out and visit with people and have swap garlic stories and a lot of questions and recipes and stuff you talk about.
Call Prairie Seed Garlic to order. The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. This week is National Farmers Markets Week, and to help celebrate, our guest today is Agriculture Commissioner Doug Goring, reflecting on Farmers Market Day at the Capitol.
Yes, and it's to celebrate National Farmers Market Week. So it's a great opportunity to showcase all of our farmers markets, all those different vendors. In so many cases, you'll find that these are some farmers and ranchers that are help subsidizing the farm by adding some more value to their products they have out there and setting up shop and selling some produce. And I'm still surprised even today, that the public can come and visit and talk about North Dakota agriculture and still not be aware of all the different types of commodities that we produce in this state.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest today is Richard Grabowski, Mr. G's Berry Patch. Mr. G tells us a little bit more about how he got started in the berry business.
Well, I originated about 15 years ago and started with blueberries. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, so I started with some other things such as honeyberries and chokeberries and choke cherries and raspberries. We're pretty productive in all those products right now.
Mr. G, tell us a little bit more about your unique blackberry that you have.
I propagated several, 100 of them, and I have approximately 6 or 7 growing, and I just picked 2 quarts of them today, and they're vigorously growing, the 6 of them, and might not need any more because these guys are producing well. Other than that, apricots and apples coming on, and got some more rhubarb coming.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Teresa Podol from Prairie Road Organic Seed at Fullerton. This farm produces vegetable seeds adapted to this region.
The varieties that we've actually bred have been onions, squash, beets, a melon, tomatoes. So most of the standard vegetables that you would be looking to raise in your garden for both fresh eating and also for winter storage. We have an online store. You can visit our website at prairieroadorganic.co, and then they can link to we have two online platforms we use. One is Local Harvest and the other is Etsy. So they can choose which storefront they'd like to purchase from and go there and purchase our seed online.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers. This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Daniel Rugroden of Rural Rugroden Roots.
This time of the year we have a lot of things going on. A lot of the vegetables are just coming into the prime growing time right now. Prominent upon that would be the tomatoes and peppers and eggplants. And a lot of the vegetables that we will be getting very soon would be like the different winter squashes will be coming into the market. Some local vendors already have their winter squash in the markets. And of course the pumpkins will be coming into season shortly, as well as a lot of producers have watermelon already.
Consumers appreciate the freshness found at the farmers market.
A lot of the farmers markets, you have a lot of flavor because the local growers pick their product ripe. We call it vine ripen. That has a lot more flavor than vegetables that are ripened in a cardboard box.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Hero Barth with Farm Fresh Gardens.
I'm digging potatoes right now. We got beets and carrots. We still have cucumbers, zucchini, tomatoes, squash are coming on, peppers are coming on. I grew a new variety of pumpkins called cargo. They seem to be okay. I'd like to grow them again and see how they do for another year. If they want to grow their own produce, just start small and see how it goes for them. It depends on if they want it for their personal use or if they want to do a farmer's market or a wholesale or what have you. Just start out small and expand each year as you increase your knowledge. Not everything works for everybody. Some things work better based on their particular locations, solid top rainfall amount, and so on. Grow what you like to grow and try something new occasionally and see how it works for you.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers. This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest is Daniel Sternberg, who manages the Watford City Farmers Market. Daniel, tell us more about it.
Watford has always had a small farmers market, but this year we look to do a little bit more. We need to grow our growers a little bit more so that we can have more vegetables. I think the growers this year see that there's still quite a bit of demand that's being unfulfilled. It's hard to grow vegetables in western North Dakota, but then traditionally people have had their own garden. We have a good extension agent here that will help. The Farmers Market and Growers Association does provide a lot of guidance there as well in terms of getting started. But really, I think you just kind of have to start doing it. You start with some seeds in the ground and see what grows and see what doesn't, and just take a lesson a year at a time.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association, local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association. Our guest is Paulette Daly of Prairie Wood Gardens in Minot. Like others in the business, Prairie Wood Gardens has made the transition to fall crops.
Pumpkins, gourds. I do a plant mainly for decorating, and then also pie pumpkins. So it's been a great year for them.
There are so many options for decorating with pumpkins and gourds.
People say they don't know how to decorate or whatever, but I think it's what appeals to you. The deep colors. I mean, you go from the deep orange to the red to the white, and then you go to your traditional orange pumpkin, and then I have a lot of gourds with bumpy bumpy outsides on them. People love those, and they just come in all shapes and contortions.
North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association. Local foods, local farmers. This update is from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Diane Schmidt from Diane's Home Creations of Mandan. Garlic is one of the items Diane grows, and that's planted in the fall season.
Make sure that it's dried, but the time to plant garlic is from October 15th to around November 1st, before the ground freezes hard.
So how deep do you plant it? How do you space it out?
Okay, we space ours about 8 inches apart, and we push it in the ground 3 to 4 inches. It's a very, we like our variety that we do plant. It is locally, so, and it does very well in the northern part of this country. Variety is music. We plant music, which is a good variety for this area.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Local foods and local farmers. This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. As temperatures cool, it is apple harvesting time. Brenda Gorseth from Woodward Farm is with us with advice on storing apples.
So I pick them in the 5-gallon buckets, but it's a good idea to get them out of the buckets as fast as you can and get them layered. I have tons of the flat. I get them on the flats, and I stack those flats up high, and I sort them that way. The ones that have a bruise, those go on the very top, and the rest I just kind of stack them according to their grade. And I try to keep them away from the tomatoes because tomatoes like to play with everybody and wreak havoc. I keep the potatoes away from them too. But just keep them in a cool place. Keep them cool and get them out of stacking as fast as you can. Make sure they're layered because they'll last for a long time if you do it that way. It's apple season. Have fun and make lots of neat things.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. We're talking with the owner of Thorson Produce, Roberta Thorson. Roberta, tell us a little bit about in-season produce and how to store produce properly for the winter.
I have cabbage, carrots, potatoes, a little of everything actually. Carrots, you want to keep them cool and try and keep them dry if possible. That's not always easy when you're refrigerating, but you can, put paper towels in between, or you can store them in sand, as some people do if they have a large quantity. Potatoes, you want a cool, dry place, and same with the squash.
How long will produce last, stored properly?
Carrots, sometimes even into the spring if they're stored properly. Of course, potatoes, they come spring, they're going to start sprouting. If they're, cool enough and dry enough, they'll keep quite a while.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest, Alicia Pretzer of Double Batch in Rugby. After a successful season selling bread in the farmers markets, Alicia is now in the midst of a community-supported agriculture program.
A lot of people do a vegetable CSA. Farm producers will do a vegetable CSA where you buy a share and then you get a certain amount of vegetables. We thought we could do that with bread. We provide a fresh loaf of bread, most of the time warm, that people pick up at our home 1 day a week.
Fresh herbs and veggies are part of these breads as well.
Part of the bread CSA is the experience because they like to come in the door and smell the bread, and you can smell the squash, in the bread as you come in the door, and people really seem to enjoy that part of the experience.
The North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Local foods and local farmers.
This update from the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association. Our guest is Charlotte Lansom, the owner of Charlotte's Homemade Lefse.
Lefse is mashed potatoes. You can't go wrong with eating a mashed potato, but we're going to put a little flour, sugar, salt, cream, and roll it out and fry it on a grill. And then we're going to butter it and sugar it and roll it up and eat it. People start making it about this time of the year. You put it in the freezer, and it'll be good for Thanksgiving or Christmas. So you can freeze it for as long as you want. It will last forever. I use red potatoes because that's what I'm offered, but I will use any potato. It has to feel right. This year we got a lot of rain. I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to be so saturated in water, but I'm using them now and they're not watered down. The feel has to be right when you ready to make the lefse. So it doesn't make any difference what kind of potatoes you have. You just need to have the consistency that you want to.
The North Dakota